5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right, guys, welcome to podcast number 8, I believe it is. We finally have some women on the podcast. Finally. So congratulations. What do you got? A little Dunkin' Donuts over there?
I do.
Nice. What about you? A little
seltzer.
I love seltzer. I don't like the company I used to work for, but I will I will buy their seltzer every now and then.
My fridge is full of it.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's good seltzer. I'll be the first to admit it. And I really can't badmouth the company too much. It was just one person, so it is what it is.
They make good seltzer.
They do. It's true. Unfortunately, it's true. So today we're going to talk a little bit about animal rescue.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have Jenn and Jenn with me today. They were both partners in a rescue with me, and we became really good friends. And that's one of the great things about animal rescue is you get to really meet some great people, and this friendship's going to go on forever. So I really do appreciate you guys. And it's awesome that you guys are here talking about this because it's something that is kind of like near and dear to our hearts. And, so we'll go into a bunch of that stuff today. And we have Jazzy here today, who's like literally ready to fall asleep.
She is the epitome of rescue.
Yeah.
So, we can get into her story later if you guys want, but it's a pretty special one.
Let's get into it right now. Yeah, absolutely.
It. So, Jazzy is my little pug girl here. She turned 16 in June, and going on about 2 years since I've had her. I think November 14th, I picked her up, and it's a little bit of a sad story. Her and her sister passed a couple months ago, but they were surrendered at the age of 13 to the rescue that I currently work with, the Pug Rescue of New England. Plug for the Pug Rescue of New England. And they were dropped off at the Lowell Humane Society, and they were in the room labeled euthanasia. And then the Pug Rescue of New England Prone stepped in, and they took them. And these girls spent 10 months in foster care. They were then adopted by a lady who lives on the Cape. And then they were with that home for about 4 or 5 months. And then Jazzy started having issues with the Chihuahua in the home. Jazzy's a little feisty. She's got 4 teeth and she can't walk, and she's blind and deaf, but she will attack anything that comes her way. So they were trying to get the girls back into the rescue, and they were just having a really hard time. So 2 years ago, almost to the date, I left work a couple hours early, drove myself out to the Cape, picked these girls up, brought them home, had them as fosters for 4 months, and then I got notification from the rescue that, hey, the girls have an application and someone wants a senior pair of pugs. And I was like, well, too bad. And she's been with me ever since.
Aww. So she's 16?
She's 16.
Wow, that's crazy.
We had a sweet 16 party in June for her. I made a cake, there's candles.
Oh,
she's looking real good.
Yeah,
for 16.
So she's a tough old bird.
Yeah, she is. And you love those pugs.
I do love pugs.
That is your dog.
You do. You're a pug lover. You are. I send you all pug things that I see on Facebook.
Yeah. We could get Jenn to foster any dog as long as we said it was a pug. Like, it could have been a German Shepherd, and it would have been like, Jenn, this dog's half pug. She's like, bring it in.
I'm pretty sure I got duped into a couple of dogs before I was working with the Pug Rescue of New England. I got duped into a couple of dogs that I were told was something and wasn't.
It's easy to do.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And so, what about your backstory? You have a crazy backstory, and that you've done a lot of things in animal rescue. So, why don't you touch base on a little bit of that?
Yeah. I'm an animal lover all my life, but certainly I am. The first time I started to really get into rescue was when this pit bull showed up at Granby shelter and was pretty much set to be euthanized. And I just kind of fell in love with her. She had just been nursing, and I had just had a baby, and I just really felt for this mom who didn't have her puppies anymore. But I couldn't take her in because our dog at the time was not good with other dogs. So that's when I first became connected with Rainbow Rescues. They wound up taking Miss Piggy in, and actually Sean wound up adopting her. So that was like my first, time working with a local rescue and kind of getting into that. After that, I helped co-create the Belchertown Animal Relief Committee, or BARC, in Belchertown, where we raised the funds to build a new animal control facility in town, which was amazing.
That place is incredible.
It's incredible.
Absolutely incredible.
And the staff there is incredible. So that was a wonderful experience too. And I resigned from my position there after the building was complete, and they're still going strong and raising great funds, and they support the Belchertown Canine Unit. They pay for the insurance for the 2 canine unit dogs every year.
Oh, wow.
So they're expanding just beyond the facility itself.
Right.
But that was also an amazing experience. And then, of course, I stepped up and became a foster for Rainbow Rescues. We've fostered 14 puppies to date and kept 3 of them. One too many.
We all have that story.
One too many. Our last one we adopted in May. He's just 9 months old today, actually.
Oh, wow.
And he's humongous. Huge. He's a horse. He's a half Great Pyrenees, half Pit Bull.
He's such a sweetheart, though.
He's a dum-dum. He eats everything in sight.
Oh, does he really?
Everything. Name it, he's eaten it. I am not joking. Name it, he has eaten it. So he's like the little brother. We got the 2 girls. Callie's now a middle child, which kind of suits her perfectly.
Yeah.
And then we have this crazy sweetheart, but still growing. He's got these long legs. I call them his sexy legs because he doesn't know how to use them.
Yep.
He's falling, tripping all the time. So yeah, that's how I got into that. And then, I just started a master's degree program in contemporary animal services. My goal is within the next 5 years to open a shelter out here in Western Mass, dogs only.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's an incredible journey. I mean, it really has, even for us. So our first, so one of the things on the podcast I've learned, every time we do something, I learn new things. I clear my throat way too much. That's something I need to work on. I just did it. I'm like,
I say,
Do you? Yeah.
I say,
I think I
in
do
between.
Yeah.
All right, we're in good company.
cough.
Yeah, it comes with time. It's repetitive motion.
Right.
So I don't do the thing very much anymore. When I first started, it was constantly all the time, and this clearing. So my sinuses are the worst ever. I had surgery to clear my sinuses or to help. I take Allegra, I take Flonase. Nothing seems to work, and this is my life, and I'm going to deal with this for until the day I die. It's just horrible. Plus, I sleep with a CPAP machine, so it doesn't make it anywhere worse.
Right.
So I just got to learn not to clear the throat.
Well, I didn't notice it, but now
yeah, every time I'm doing it, now you're going to be like, there it is again.
She'll
She'll be etching it right into the table. So for us, Samson was our first, there's one our rescue. We, the thing with rescue is, and you guys will, back me up on this, is you fill out that application, and then there's 20 people who already fill out the application ahead of you, so you don't get that animal.
Right.
And so we did that for a while until we found Samson. And then we got all excited. I took the day off of work, and then because we had to go to Avon, Connecticut to get him. And then morning of, they called and said that he was bit by the permanent dog that was there right in the nose. I mean, so you guys know that, when you pierce the membrane or the sinus cavity, that's not a good thing. So they actually paid for an MRI, and come to find out the MRI came back negative. So we're like, okay, we're still in, so we get there, and he had all these holes in his, the scabs and stuff. And he was such a little chunky monkey. He, you look at him now, and he's such a monster.
Looks like a horse.
He's still a chunky monkey.
But he could fit under the gate. We had this one little spot that we cut the gate out for our cat. and so she can get in and out away from the animals because we live in the woods, kind of. And he could fit underneath that. Well, now look at him. Could you ever imagine?
No.
They can get into some funny stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I first got into, I'd say, rescue when I adopted Jacoby, my coonhound mix. He just turned 10. I adopted him almost 10 years ago and did a horrible job training him. He's the worst dog ever.
He also was supposed to be something else, right?
They told us he was a Chiweenie Beagle mix, and then he got to about 60 pounds.
Yeah.
So he is a horrible dog. The problem is he's smart. So
He is.
that was kind of my first experience. I adopted Jacoby, and then I got my first pug after that, Millie, who's since passed, and then I got my dachshund, Dash, who's been he's a great dog, but dachshunds cost a lot of money. If any of you want to get a dachshund, they are expensive. So, yeah, and then after, accumulating a couple of dogs on my own, I got involved with Rainbow Rescue and met you guys, and like you said, we became great friends. And at first I was just doing kind of fundraising and administrative work for Rainbow Rescues, and I was thinking, I have too many dogs, I can't foster, I can't do this. And then I caved one day and I took a foster, and I got this tiny little, we still don't know what he was, Simon. And he looked like a miniature pit bull. He looked like a 20-pound pit bull.
Yeah.
And he's actually started popping up in my Facebook memories lately. And so he was my first official foster and really opened my world to fostering. And then, I kept fostering through Rainbow Rescues for a period of time. My pug passed away about a year into fostering for Rainbow Rescues. And I think at that point I had told them, I need to take a hiatus for Luelle. I need to grieve her. But if you get a pug or a dachshund in, I'll take a pug or a dachshund. So then I get a call from the rescue literally the next day, or a Facebook message from the rescue the next day. Hey, we have a dachshund for you. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. I literally just told you I was on hiatus unless you get a pug or a dachshund. So I'm like, all right, whatever, I guess I'm in. Thinking I'm getting an actual, dachshund. And I show up a week later, and I get dropped off this tan little Chiweenie that has the most obnoxious bark in the world and is the most high anxiety dog you will ever meet. This dog is on Prozac. And guess what? He stayed.
Yep.
We adopted him. Him and my dachshund, the two of them they hit it off. They loved each other. They're like brothers. So it's like, all right, well, I guess he's not going anywhere. But I was like, this is not what I was expecting, but it is what it is. You commit to it and you stick with it. And then he was probably, when I first got him, he was awful. He peed in my house everywhere. He was not trained. And I was like, this is the worst foster dog I've ever had. And he was my first actual foster fail. And I still have him.
Was that Rex?
That's Rex.
Rex.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Rex,
I remember.
the tiny little Chiweenie. He's about 11 pounds. The dog, I mean, he follows me everywhere. My ex-husband used to joke and say that he was my boyfriend. And so I kept him, and then, after my pug passed, that's really when I kind of transitioned and got really involved with the pug rescue. And so that's kind of been my journey up until I took on the two old ladies who have been dubbed the Golden Girls.
It's very interesting to hear everybody's story and how we got to where we got. And it's a shame that COVID kind of shut everything down. And with me finding another job a couple of years ago, that kind of started my kind of downward, I don't want to say spiral, but the lack of time to do any of that stuff. And so after we got Samson, Cheryl's like, let's foster. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to foster. I want to give this guy the best life ever. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what, let's try it. That sounds good. So, but that was the whole process of finding where can we foster and who's, where do we go? And then, so there was a person in town here who didn't want to return our phone calls or anything like that. So I figured it just wasn't meant to be. And then my aunt called and said, well, we have Rainbow Rescues, and her friend was fostering for them, Kathy.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, okay, let's give him a shot. And so someone came over and did the walkthrough. And I remember that day was like so exciting when she left. Remember we put on Facebook, like, we're going to be fosters. It was, and so our first foster, I'll never forget this, so as you guys will attest, like new fosters always have these like weird things that happen to them. And they're always like, oh, I don't want to foster anymore. And so my first foster broke its leg on its first day, jumping up on the counter to go grab a sandwich that Cheryl was making, fell backwards and broke its leg. So although I think something was wrong with his leg when he first got there, I could tell he was limping, or she was limping a little bit. But I'm sure this was like the icing on the cake. So I remember I called Sean, and I'm like, Sean, I think something's wrong with the dog's leg. So he came to pick it up, bring it to the vet, and sure enough, it was broken. And I'm like, oh my God, first dog we have. Like, I'm freaking out because the last thing I want to do is hurt an animal. And I remember telling Cheryl, we're done. We're not fostering anymore. And so I called Sean to tell him we weren't going to foster anymore. And he's like, dude, my first dog ran out in the street and got hit by a car. So
he told the same thing to me. The first week I had Simon, we learned very quickly that he had, he was quirky and he had some issues with food, and him and Jacoby got into a tiff and they ended up, and Simon bit Jacoby. And I had to end up taking Jacoby up to Deerfield, and they had to treat him. And then, I talked with the vet up there, and they're like, yeah, it's your dog, so we're not going to report it. And so it was a whole kind of debacle. And then the next day I get a call from the Holyoke ACO, and I was like, oh Lord, here we go. So then Simon had to be quarantined it ended up being fine because it was a tiff between the dogs, and it was, a dog to dog bite. But then Simon had to be quarantined for 14 days. And the same thing, I called Sean. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Now this dog has to be quarantined. He's like, it's fine. And I think he told me the exact same story.
All the time. Yep. It's funny. I mean, and then we get Scout. Was Scout her? Yeah, I don't know what line Scout was in for fosters, but our first day we had him, I go to work. So I'm like, to Cheryl, I'm like, are you going to be okay with him? She's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. And 2 seconds later, after I get down the street, he hops the fence and takes off down the street. So I'm in Worcester. She calls me up. I got to run home. And his old foster lived in Worcester, so he came all the way over here. So we had like 6 or 7 different people. Had my buddy who's a cop in town. He was trying to find him too. And he was 4 houses down. And it was like 4 hours later, some ridiculous time, that we find him. And he's just been hanging out 4 houses down playing with the neighbor's dog, And he's been an interesting kind of dog because he was very... So he would dig a hole in the side of the house and bury himself in the hole, and he wouldn't move. He'd like literally just curl up in a ball. And so we'd have company over, and that's what he would do, or he would hide under the deck. If that's
what did I do to that?
You can tighten it up. There's little things right here on both sides. There you go.
All right,
perfect. It's whatever this is right here. So I'll just pick it back up.
All right, I'll figure this out.
Yeah.
With a dog in one arm.
There you go. That's it right there. And then just put it, there you go.
There we go.
Or not.
Operator error over here.
Yeah, so we'll let you go ahead and figure that out. And then slowly but surely that he would come out of his shell a little bit. And then Cheryl had her brain injury. And literally the day we brought him back home, he was her dog. He would not leave her side. He was literally embedded with her everywhere she went. He always had to be against her, kind of like telling her it's going to be okay. Because, after a brain injury patient comes home, she had some struggles really bad, and he was with her every step of the way. And
he still is.
He still is. He doesn't,
He's still super protective of her.
The minute she leaves the house, he will wait by the sliding glass door, and he just stares.
Now, didn't Scout get adopted and come back also?
He did,
so
yeah.
It was like a meant-to-be situation?
So we had him for like 1.5 years, something like that. And then he got adopted for like 3 months or 2 months.
That's a long time to have foster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes it difficult sometimes, is you have them for this length of time, so you get to know all their quirks, and you start to kind of live with that, and so he got adopted, and these little kids, we would open the door all the time and let him run. And Scott would run. And I don't know how they always got him, but they always did. And then he came back, and I was at work. And Cheryl's like, I picked up Scout today, and by the way, he's ours. And he's been a great dog. He really has. I mean, his backstory, too, is he was ready to be euthanized in North Carolina. But they knew we were up here, so they got a hold of Rainbow Rescues. And by the way, for anybody that wants the website, it's rainbowrescues.org. Don't go to the .com one. We don't associate with them. But it's rainbowrescues.org. So yeah, that's how the whole thing got started. Then we got Luna. And Luna, I'll
Love
tell
that
you,
girl.
She is a little peach.
she's a tear ass, man. And
She loves me.
yeah,
She makes me
you
feel
were the
good
first
about
person
myself.
she loved.
I know.
Usually she'll take your face off.
I know. And we just have this love connection that I can't explain.
Yeah.
But I love every minute of it.
People wouldn't really understand what we deal with her. Like so I took her as a favor for a detective in Ludlow, and who was also an animal rescue, and we know her backstory, and I forget the dog's name that she... Jameson, yeah, Jameson's journey.
Mm-hmm.
She's a phenomenal person, and she dedicates her life to rescuing too. And so the first day we get Luna, it's okay. She's timid and stuff. And about 2 days later, I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? She's like literally she's on DEFCON 4 all the time. But we've learned how to help her and how to not put her in situations where she's going to get herself in trouble. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. It's like, oh, my dog won't do anything. And the next thing you know, we have a bite, or if they know that dog has issues, and they continue to put that dog in those situations, and then next thing you know, we have a bite, and then we have to put a dog down.
Right.
So we definitely don't put her in those positions. Somebody comes over that we don't know, or she doesn't know. She goes in her room. She lays on her bed, and quiet time, play some music for her. But a lot of people don't take that time to do that right thing, and then you hear these horror stories all the time where it's just you shake your head and go, you should have known better.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we're the humans. We're the ones that are supposed to be more level thinkers.
I think a lot of people tend to question. I mean, I think you've got dog people, and then you've got dog people. Like we are the higher level of that. That tier of dog people. And a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people want, they want to bring this dog into their home, and, they don't understand that dogs really take a good 3 months to fully adjust. I always say what I've learned is that it takes a good 3 weeks for a dog to start to get comfortable, and you start to see their quirks and their personality. And it takes a full 3 months for them to really feel like they're at home. Like that is what, that seems to be like an average timeline. I mean, when I brought the Golden Girls home, they were at home immediately, which is kind of rare.
Yeah.
But, I had the same issue with Jazzy and her quirks. I mean, yes, she's got spinal issues and she can barely walk, and she's only got 4 teeth, and she's deaf and she's blind. But this girl is spunky.
She's perfect.
She's spunky. She will try to go after my other 3 dogs. And she's crazy. She's out of her mind. But over time, I've learned her triggers and her cues.
Right.
And, I can work with that so that, she doesn't put herself in a position where she's going to get hurt or cause a ruckus. And, then she just, because let's face it, she was going to be hard to adopt out.
Yeah. With
her issues, her medical issues. So you have to figure it out, and when you dedicate yourself to it, and I think a lot of people don't understand that.
You got to go all in, and the benefits that we see from Luna now, the fact that when I come home from work, she's at the front of the line, and I have big dogs, and she will let those dogs know, my dad's home, it's me first. She rules the roost. Yeah, she rules the roost in this house. Like, Samson gets so scared of her sometimes, and she's 30 pounds and he's 110 pounds, so it's really funny to see that dynamic work. She's the first one at the door. First one, she only lets me hold her. She likes to be on her side, and I'm the only one that can do that. She licks my head like it's a salt lick. And she's very jealous of Cheryl. If me and Cheryl are anywhere close together, Luna will get in the middle of us, and she'll stare at her like, he's my man, not yours. And it's so funny to see her, because she is afraid of men. Men are not her thing. So I'm very blessed that she thinks of me that way, and but it's taken a long time. We're still working through her issues.
Do you think you'd be able to bring another female dog in with Luna?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not she's okay with dogs. It's but she definitely
She makes her place.
Yeah, she definitely lets everybody know, like,
Right.
I'm the bitch in this house, and you will,
Right.
She tries to dominate them all the time. And especially with the puppy now. So when the puppy came in, who's my daughter's dog, his name is Liam, she definitely was like, I know, he's a little shit, though.
I know.
He's a conniving little shit.
So cute.
Don't give him any more credit than
That
he
really
deserves.
worked out for me. It really worked out for
It did.
me because I have a soft spot for that dog and wanted to adopt him. And
You have a soft spot for puppies.
Yeah,
I do,
yeah.
but Liam was, one of those, like, I love all my foster puppies, but you have a connection with certain dogs that come through, and Liam, I was super connected to him. But the family just wasn't ready at the time to add another dog, and so I could not have been happier for him to be adopted here. So I get to see him.
See, and it's funny that it's funny when you find your kind of niche with fostering too and rescue. Like I won't do a puppy. I love dogs. I love puppies. They're adorable. I've learned for myself, I don't have the patience for it.
Yeah.
And I love them. So I just know that if it was a dire situation, yes, I would take a puppy, obviously, but it's not my thing. I think I'm more the seniors at this point. That's kind of like my niche with rescuing. Even, the last couple fosters I've had, they've been older dogs.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, I think the reason we got into fostering puppies is because of the situation in our house. Like, I had 2 young kids,
which makes
this was
sense.
2016. So what year are we in? So
I
4
think
years
it's
ago.
2020.
So 4 years ago, I had 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, or the 6-year-old actually. And I had an older dog who was really particular. So puppies made the most sense for us in a safe way, rather than bringing in older dogs. We didn't know their backgrounds, and having the young kids and having Foster, who was like super grumpy old man. But along the way, I learned that I have a tremendous amount of patience for puppies. I love taking care of them. And I work from home, which was also really helpful for having puppies around.
And I think, I work from home too. Well, now due to COVID, I'm, home full time. And even when I wasn't home full time, my office was right around the corner. And now I'm pretty sure I'm going to be home on a permanent basis. But it was almost the same thing with like the seniors, as being home and being able to be there for their needs. And I mean, Jazzy can't take herself in and out of the house. She has to be carried in and out of the house. And, she's, in a sense, the seniors are almost as much work as puppies, but in a different way.
Not as destructive.
Yeah.
Exactly, not as destructive. They're not eating my house. Although I can't say much because Jacoby ate my kitchen wall the other day. So yeah,
We've all been a victim of that.
Little boredom.
Yeah.
Boredom over there.
I'll never forget the day we came home, and one of the windows in the living room, the molding was all chewed out, right to the sheetrock, right to the studs. Like, we're talking a big chunk of it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, how does he have time for this? But that's how destructive Scott was when we first got him. He just wanted out. But like I said, after her brain injury, he was like done with all that stuff, and he's never destroyed another thing in the house. It's just weird how they kind of simulate, and it's like that light switch. All of a sudden, they're like a whole new dog. Like They're like, they know that this is where they want to be, and you start seeing a lot less of their kind of outburst and those weird things that happen. And I tell people this when I was the foster coordinator. I used to tell people, especially new fosters, listen, if you think this is all butterflies and lollipops, you have another thing coming. If you don't like pee, poop, stuff being chewed on, your couch being destroyed, then you are in the wrong, you're in the wrong business, because all that is going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, and I think
It's not just being a foster. It's like
Right.
and I think people coming into it, they don't realize that a lot of those issues are the reason we need fosters, and the
Right.
reason. I mean, Rainbow was a little bit different than the Pug Rescue of New England, but with pugs or any purebred rescue, yeah, you get your younger dogs, and I mean puppies are rare. With a breed specific rescue, you're not going to find a puppy,
Right.
unless it's kind of an odd situation. Yeah, you'll find younger dogs here and there, but I think you find a lot of older dogs. You find there's that
Yeah.
and you find if you do find younger dogs, it's because they come with issues,
Right.
that the owners just don't want to deal with, whether it's marking or I guess technically aggression issues like Jazzy, and then you're in a situation where you have to find very particular people to adopt these dogs because they have to be placed in in the best situation for them, and then that's where you kind of get to the adopter side where a lot of people don't understand that either. So
Yeah.
Right.
It's tough. Like I've been in places where I've done a home check, and with one person in particular, she was so nice, the woman, but her husband came in, and I was just like, "You're a complete asshole," and he didn't want to sit down with us. And sure enough, down the road, one of the dogs ate a part of a door, and Cheryl was the one that went back there to get all this stuff, and he was kind of being being real rude to her. He would never be that way with me if I showed up, but he took it out on her, and it's just a shame because you have one person who really wanted to foster, and then so I always made it a point where I made sure that both couples were on board.
just
You know,
point this out, by the way.
yeah,
oh
look
my
at this.
God.
Whoa,
Girl,
where am I? Where am I?
feel you.
Where am I?
I feel you.
I feel like that halfway through work every day. I
Me
just want
too. It's like the 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock point.
Thank God for Dunkin' Donuts, man. I know where
Seriously.
every single Dunkin' Donuts is from here to Boston,
Yeah.
verbatim. So yeah, I mean, it's I think that's a real great thing to stress to everybody that if you're going to foster, you need to expect that, as a foster, there's a great responsibility to help train these dogs so we get them into a home and we don't have that revolving door.
We have to set them up. I mean, you have to set them up to succeed, not set them up to fail.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. And, that's one of the, that was always my fear. Like, we get this new foster, and you can already feel the tension already. Like, they call you a week later, and like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And, some people, we've actually been able to, you can do this. And, go over their house and show them, certain things and get them a little bit more trained up. But then you have those other people that, they want to foster just so they find the puppy and then they're gone.
Right.
And that bothers me a little bit.
Yeah.
But I get it, but at the same time, like, they don't really understand the need for fosters
Right.
and where we are as a, in this rescue of what it's like not to be able to find fosters. So you're not able to help as many dogs as you want,
I think some people surprise you too, though. When I had a foster named Billie Jean, and she was a very strange-looking dog. She came in through Rainbow Rescues. She came in through Ludlow Animal Control. She was probably about, I don't know, maybe 35, 40
She was
pounds.
like a terrier.
She looked like a
type.
terrier.
She was wire hair, wasn't she?
Wire-haired. Yeah. She looked like Splinter from the Ninja Turtles. That's what I would joke and call her. She looked like Splinter. She was a beautiful dog. Pretty sure she did not understand English. She came from Ludlow, so I think the family probably mostly spoke Portuguese, because I did try looking up some Portuguese words and she understood them. And I had a really hard time trying to train her. And then we did Friendsgiving at the house one year at my house, and one of the fosters came and they fell in love with her. And I remember there was some hesitation about, these people that they were fostering for Rainbow, but I think there was some of those issues with them fostering, because they weren't dog people. Like, they took on a foster, and that was the first dog they'd ever had.
Like experience.
Experience-wise.
Have experience,
yes.
right.
So, excuse me. They were dog people, but experience-wise. So there was some hesitation about, having them adopt this dog, and it turned out to be the most amazing fit. They ended up taking her through agility training, basic training, agility training, and the wife is a therapist, and last I checked, they have her she's being trained now to be a therapy dog.
Oh, wow.
Like to go to work with
That's
her.
amazing.
Yeah.
And I never would have pegged this family for that. And honestly, like they did such an amazing job training her, and I couldn't even get this dog to sit.
Right. Yeah.
So people do surprise you too.
And we're out there. Like there are lots of people like the three of us who just embrace it.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it's going to be. I mean, they just handed me 2 puppies the first time I was a foster. We were looking to get a puppy, and we had some stuff set up with adopting, I think it was Save a Lab or something like that. And then I saw these little pity puppies born local, and I'm like, wow. And, you know, guilty, we were looking for a puppy.
Right.
So, but it was like, well, we could take these 2 and see how it goes, and maybe we'll keep one. And, you know, it's just, we're the type of people who adjust our lives to the animals.
Yep.
And we're okay with that.
Yep.
Because we have that
Yeah.
to give. We have that love. We have that experience. Just to be like, okay, you know, I got to come home every 3 hours because I have to let the puppy out.
That's
Then
just
that's what
what
I
we
have
do.
to do. If
It's
I have
just
to
me.
replace my rugs every couple of years, that's what I've got to do. To me, that's like so
What you
little
get in
to
return.
what I get in return.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly. It's just so rewarding and loving. And I cried after the first one left, but after that, you get used to the idea that you're kind of building them up and then sending them off to these families.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, it's
Yeah.
just me at home with 4 dogs, and life would definitely be so much easier if I just had my boys, because they're pretty low maintenance. I can leave them for the day and they're fine, you know. But I can't leave her for that long, and I haven't taken a vacation since I got her.
I know that feeling.
yeah.
And
It's like
But-
7 years.
but to know that she's living out, I mean, again, I adopted her at the age of 14, but to know that she gets to live out her life, you know, the way she should, versus, you know, the family that just dropped her off at the Little Humane Society and said, here, euthanize her because, you know, she's old.
Right.
Like, that's what makes it worth it. So it's just,
That really infuriates me. Like, we get to see some really bad shit in animal rescue, and some of it, you know, affects us for a long time. And the other times, you know, people always say, well, I don't want to foster because I just can't let them go. And I get it. We all have foster failures. It's part of the game. You know.
I'm sorry. I think that's a crap.
No, but yeah, it is like,
I mean,
yeah,
look, 14 have come through. I don't have 14 dogs.
right.
You know, I do have one more than I anticipated, but that's because the husband and the kids wanted him.
Right.
The other 2 was me, and I get what I want normally. You know, I
Yeah.
wanted some girls up in the house. I have 2 sons. I had a husband. We had 2 male cats, a male dog, and I was like, it's time for some bitches up in this place, you know? And then Marty came along, like, came out, loved the kids, loved Nate, could give a shit about me, sleeps with me, of course, because he sleeps with the pack.
Yep.
But, like, he has no attachment to me whatsoever. He's the only puppy who's come into this house that has had no attachment to me.
Wow.
So they were
Yeah.
like, can we
You-
keep him? I'm
I
like,
pegged you for keeping Dash when you had him.
which is funny because I connected with Dash's owner today.
Did you?
Oh, wow,
Yes,
really?
That's so funny.
He had posted some pictures of Dash on Instagram, and I messaged him and sent him a picture of Callie because they're siblings. And I was just like, Dash, like, we still all dream about Dash. He's an old soul.
I loved him. So I
Yeah.
fostered him for a couple of weeks, and then he was such a big puppy, and it was hysterical because he was a great puppy. I loved him. Actually, he was kind of where I was like, all right, I can't do puppies. My pug would beat the crap out of him. It was not Jazzy, my other pug at the time, who's passed, but she would beat the crap out of him. I have videos. It is hysterical. But he was like Marty, like he was just big and like bumbly, and it got to the point where like he was roughhousing too much with my dachshund, and my dachshund had already had back issues, so it became like a safety concern for one
Right.
of my other dogs, and I was like devastated about it. So Jenny ended up taking over and fostering him. And I don't think you had him very long. He got adopted pretty fast.
Yeah, we had him, I think, a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And that was a time where we had 5 dogs. We had 4 puppies and Ren, who was a year.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We had adopted
I
Ren,
pegged you
and
for
it
keeping
was,
him.
It was
Yeah.
it was, I think what happened, because we were all really in love with Dash. He was so low key, old soul, like loved snuggling with the boys at night. Like he was great, but we had to put Foster down the year before. He had died of cancer, and he was a black dog. And I really wanted another black dog. We all know they're harder to get adopted at the shelters. Yep. And but I didn't want to get a male black dog, because then I felt like I was trying to replace him.
Yeah.
So we had Callie, Dash's sister at the time, and she was perfect in every non-perfect way. And so that's kind of how we decided to keep Callie over Dash. But that was a hard one to let go of too.
Yeah.
But he's so happy. And this is the thing, like he's living his best life, and
I've been
that
considering
makes it
getting
all
a
worth
cat
it.
lately.
What's that?
I've been considering getting a cat.
I have 2 upstairs. You can take one home.
I want to adopt an
Don't
orange
take Charlie.
cat.
You got to take Sullivan.
I started looking around, and I want an orange cat, and I found a couple, and then I was like, I think I need to wait until Jazzy's no longer with us, which, I mean, who knows? Could be 6 months, could be 6 years.
Yeah.
She's probably going to live forever. But I do want to adopt a cat at some point. I miss having a cat.
Yeah.
My dogs would eat cats.
I don't know. That's the thing.
So it is.
I don't know how to
Can't have cats.
It is the food chain. It is.
I have to do it in an environment where I can take Jacoby to meet the cat, like a shelter environment or something, because I don't know how he would react.
Yeah, I mean, unless this cat shows up with like sunglasses and a butt hanging out of its mouth, then like it's gonna get destroyed by my dogs. Like, unless it can really
hold its
own.
I think that's
the household.
Yeah,
like my cats, we have one cat who thinks it's a dog. We feed all the dogs, and there's Sullivan sitting down like a dog.
Right.
Charlie's mommy's little boy. Although I've had this really cool connection with him this last probably like over a year. The minute I come in, he comes in, he headbutts me all the time. He never used to do that. As the boys get older, they're definitely getting to a point where they're becoming more lovable, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But so my worst one, where I had the hardest time getting rid of, was Coco, the German Shepherd.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember her.
She was my girl.
That was around when I first became involved.
That's when
Rainbow?
was
it
the
2016?
Something like that, yeah.
No, it was 17.
Was it 17?
17.
Yeah, it all meshes together.
Well, yeah, because Ren and her sister came, I think it was September. So,
Yeah.
it was close enough to 2017, but
yeah, it was such a long ride to the Cape.
her in my head.
It was like 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours to the Cape because traffic was so bad. We finally get there, and they had an autistic boy who just totally, they just melted together. And the look on her face when she met him, I was like, this is them. Like, this is the perfect fit. And he calmed right down, and he would do things that he normally wouldn't do without her there. And then Mom's like, I don't really see him do this very often. This is amazing. I'm like, well, this is meant to be. And the great thing about it was they already had previous workings with German Shepherd. So she had some quirks, but also their German Shepherd had some quirks. So they were very well versed in taking care of that. But it was the first one where I went to go hug her goodbye, and I started to cry. And Sean's like, get in the car, get in the car. I put my sunglasses down, and I just made a beeline for the car. I got upset because when I went to go bring her in, she was kind of fighting the leash a little bit to go in because she was scared all the time. But they were really good about sending us pictures and to see how she's grown. And I think last year, or maybe earlier in the year, they posted something with Rainbow Rescue. And I think she's still doing great. But I think about her all the time, and she just came up in my memories a little while ago. So,
well, I think you can make friends. It's funny. My first pug foster, his name was Rocky. He was an 11-year-old pug, and it was a really sad situation. The family had a little girl who was very sick, and they had Rocky since he was a puppy, and they just were at a point where, their daughter's health had to come first, and he wasn't getting the attention, and had him for about 2 months. And he got adopted by a lady who lives out in Boston named Marianne. And I drove him out there. She was a previous adopter with the rescue, so she was, it was just it was a good fit. And we've become very good friends. We still stay in contact. She loves Jazzy. I dog sit for her when she goes on vacation. Aww. She has family out this way. So when she comes and she visits her family in Greenfield, she always stops by. And then my little brother lives like one town over from her. So usually when I go visit my brother, I stop out there and I visit her and we have lunch. And so, I mean, I see her multiple times a year and we talk all the time. So we became really good friends out of that.
I wish I could have that with all of the foster puppies.
I know. It's tough.
Just, it is tough. You know, I love seeing updates of them. It makes...
That friendship worked out for me, and it was great because he was my first pug after my own pug had passed away. And so I was just, you know, he was hard to let go. So the fact that, like, we became really good friends and I get to see, like, how great she takes care of him and I got a friendship out of it too. So
yeah.
I mean, it's just funny how it works out sometimes.
Yeah, those friendships can go a long time. I think we only have one or two that we become friends with, only because we have so much volume that has come through this house. It's really hard to, you know, that's why
to keep up with everybody.
That's why it's easier. Like, our relationships were easier to mold than an outside person because we don't have that time. You know what I mean?
Right.
We are so intimate in what we do that it's kind of natural how this stuff happens. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, fostering for me has definitely cleaned my soul, and I miss it. I miss the fact that we're not as active as we were before, but, you know, which brings me up to another point. Like, there's a lot of things people can do to help with a rescue, whether it be, you know, yeah, we get it if you don't have time, but maybe donate a bag a month of food, some leashes, you know, all sorts of stuff. Call your local rescue, find out what they need, and that's a great way you can help without actually not having to be there.
Right.
You know, with these new regulations they just came out with for fostering, I don't know what this is going to do to the industry, but and I don't want to really get into it because it's a long thing. But if people want to look it up, it's kind of disheartening in a way.
It is. It's hard, and you know, now that I'm in this program, it's just, you know, shelters and rescues nationwide are moving more towards not even having dogs make it to the shelter.
Right.
But when they're transported in, going like
straight to
the only time they're in the shelter is to get their vaccines and get checked in, and then they go straight to the foster home. And that's not something that I'll be able to do here in Massachusetts. They will have to be in the shelter for a period of time before they can go to the foster home.
Right.
Well, Mass has quarantine laws, don't we?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, then you just have your foster-based rescues, too, who don't even have facilities and just, like you said, like Rainbow Rescue. I mean, in those, I mean, the people involved with, I feel like, the foster-based rescues, especially when you're all over the place and you're not condensed to just one area, like, some of the stuff, like, these people are amazing, and some of the stuff that they do, and, you know, the commitment to it. And, you know, one of the things I do a lot is I do a lot of transport and pickup, and there's times where I'm driving to New York, to Worcester, to Boston, and it's a lot of gas and it's a lot of driving, but totally worth it to get, you know. Yeah,
and I'm sure a lot of that stuff is on hold right now because of COVID. And, you know, this whole thing is just put a tamper on so many different things. But, you know, like I said before, it was so cleansing to my soul, and to be able to help out and do those things. And, you know, I wish, you know, and a lot of times you have somebody who's new and they do it for one day. They're like, "Oh my God, this is like the best thing I ever did." But it was a progress to them getting there. Yeah, it's not all peaches and cream. You know, we all know that. You know, one of my favorite memories though is when we had the kickoff for the Belchertown place. I had to wrangle up the 2 pigs with Maria.
Oh my God, that's
and
right.
that was a fun time. And then one of the pigs tried to escape at the end, and thank God Sean knows how to handle pigs, and the screams that thing was doing. People would have thought we were making it in the bacon already. And we finally got him into their pen and stuff like that. But those are the fun times. Like, you look back and, like, I wrangled some pigs.
You did wrangle some pigs. Matilda in Hampshire, right?
Yeah. And the other pig that we had before that was Kevin Bacon. Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely like an amazing experience. I've loved every minute of it. And I think I've had a lot of different dogs come through.
It's funny.
All different needs.
It's funny to see, like, your friends and family's like perspective on you too. Like, just, you know, Jenny's probably been dubbed this too. I'm sure you're the crazy dog lady, you know. And it's just at the point where it's like no one's surprised anymore.
Yeah.
I'll post on Facebook, all right, newest Richard Foster, and everyone's just like, yeah, we're not surprised at all.
Yeah, I just imagine what people think when they walk by my house, because Luna goes crazy and the puppy tries to corral her. She does not like that. So they go at it all the time. So people probably think we have a dog fighting ring in the house.
Right.
And God forbid someone walks by the house, they all go crazy. So we're always apologizing when we meet new people. They're like, oh, no, we see the sign out front. We know. And it's like, oh, thank you. But,
I actually made friends with one of my neighbors who he's not really my neighbor. He lives at the end of the street on a cul-de-sac. But I made friends with him over my dogs because he has a boxer. And he's out walking this boxer like 17 times a day. And this boxer has like a different color harness for every walk. It's ridiculous. And so we started just pleasantly saying hi when I'll be out going for a run. And, you know, we started, you know, just hi, whatever. And then one day I said to him, I said, when you walk around the corner off the main road and all those dogs are barking at you while you're walking Blaze, your dog by, I said, those are my dogs. That's my house. And he laughed. And so, like, we kind of joke about that. And then I was at the gym, like, 2 weeks ago, and I've never seen this man with his sunglasses off, ever. Like, so I'm on the treadmill, and this guy walks by, and he's, like, talking to me, and I'm like, who are you? He's like, it's me, your neighbor. I have Blaze. I was like, oh, I've never seen you with your sunglasses off. So we start talking. He nicknamed my dachshunds. He goes, oh, yeah, when I walk by your house, the dachshunds, when they bark, I nicknamed them the squeakers.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, Callie has like a ear bleeding bark.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
those are the best.
She's half pit, half hound, so she barks. It's very high pitched and it's incessant. But my neighbors have been very kind about it. We message each other. Like, I'll be like, if she's bothering you, let me know. I'll bring her in. And they're always like, we don't even hear her. And I'm like,
that's what I like about
I hear her.
Jacoby.
Yeah.
I'm used to it.
Yep.
I live on a main road by myself. It's just me at home. And let's face it, the dachshunds aren't scaring anybody off. But Jacoby, for a 60-pound Beagle Coonhound mix, like, he's not that big of a dog and he's a lover, but he has got a howl on him.
Yep.
Yeah. If I had known you were going to be recorded, I actually would have put makeup on, and I probably wouldn't have brought my 16-year-old old lady.
Hey, I don't wear any makeup either.
Naturally beautiful.
That's right.
No, but this is what you get.
I just put makeup on because I haven't put makeup on since March.
I started actually.
I don't leave the house.
I started getting up and just I got to the point where it was like I had to get up and start. Like, I would just roll out of bed and start working, and I'm like, I get up and I put makeup on every day now just to feel like somewhat normal.
I do occasionally, but then I'll forget and I'll put lipstick on and realize like I'm wearing a mask out in public anyway. Like, nobody's seeing this lipstick at all. But sometimes, like, I definitely get dressed every morning, but occasionally I will do the makeup too. Oh,
no, I've got my workout yoga pants and my work from home yoga pants. Yeah. I've accumulated a lot of black yoga pants over the last, what are we going at, 8 months now? This going on.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It's you can get caught in the hole for sure. I mean, I have no reason to get dressed. I don't have to go out in public, you know, and I've got 2 kids doing school at home while I'm working.
I can't. Not to get off topic, but I can't imagine having to do that. I had my nephews not last Friday, the Friday before. My sister was kind of in a bind. She works in a dental office, and her husband works outside of the home too, and the boys had a half day. She's like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, it's fine. I'll pick them up, thinking like, I'll stick them in front of the TV and they'll be fine. Yeah, that did not happen.
No. Yeah, I found myself getting into a little bit of a weird place, probably a good month into it. And you know me, like, I'm pretty positive. There's not a lot that gets to me, but I got into a really weird place. Like, it was just Groundhog Day every day.
Right.
And
you were out of work for a while.
Well, I was working, but from home.
Okay.
And our training team was just phenomenal. They set up all these classes for us to take, like, college courses kind of stuff, all this training. So that gave me purpose every day. And I remember talking to one of my trainers one day, and I just said, I'm like mentally I'm kind of weird. And she's like, well, are you taking a shower every day? And I'm like, I'm going to take a shower for every day. I'm,
Right.
I'm home. She goes, you just get back in the system.
Yeah, you have to get
Yep,
back.
shave every day, take a shower every day. And I started doing that, and I was like, boom, like I immediately snapped out of it. And then I would just immerse myself in work, and then we started walking at night. So just being outside,
It's been really good for me. Like I know a lot of people say that they've been like gaining weight during COVID and like.
No, I did.
No, I started running a lot more, especially over the summer because I was home, and it was like for me working out after work used to just be cumbersome. It was like I had to do it right after work or I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But being able to work from home now and then going into the summer months, I was like, you know what, like I can't really talk about work that much, but I will say the company I work for has been amazing during this whole thing, and they're just like so focused on like your mental health and your well-being, and trying to be flexible with adjusting to this new way of life. I was able to start getting out and running on lunch, and I was going from struggling to run 2 days a week. I'm now running 6 days a week. Some days a week amazing. I'm running 7, and I'm training for a half marathon.
Oh, that makes me tired just thinking
about
it.
Doing that, but I'm really proud of you.
Yeah, we will
crazy.
Be right behind you, rooting
we'll
you in my car.
I'm just hoping. I'm aiming for. There's a half marathon. The Fort Hill Brewery half marathon is set for April, and I'm just really hoping that I've done a couple virtual runs and they suck. They're just not the same. So I'm really hoping that by that time we'll be able to in person.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. Like, we're social people. And no
Yep.
matter how much you shower or get dressed or get outside for a walk, it's like eventually you hit a wall where it's like, I have no one to talk to.
Yeah, and things are.
I can't go anywhere.
And things
Yeah.
are opening
It's
back up.
frustrating.
And I get that restaurants are open now and, things to that extent. But, I mean, and I will say I'm going out to eat, but you can only do that so much. I mean, there's nothing else to do. You can't go to a concert. You can't go to a sporting event. You can't do any of those fun things. And even for me, like, since I've gotten so much more into running, I'd love to join a running club. But I can't right now because they're like non-existent.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just, but Jenny's right. As much as you try to normalize it, it's hard.
How are the kids doing now?
I mean, they're doing okay. We're lucky with their ages. So William's in 1st grade and Jackson 4th. And their teachers are phenomenal. The online learning is great.
Are they full online learning?
They're full online.
Wow.
So William, our district has very, very strict metrics. And although right now they're sky high because of all the cases going up, their metrics are really, really strict. So William actually made it to school for a week, and then they closed the school again.
Wow.
So I am anticipating Jack not making it to school this year at all because he's the last phase, of going back, and William's the first because of their grades.
Yep.
So, William will be 7 on Friday. Jack's turning 10. Like, they're at these manageable ages where they can handle their work pretty well.
Yep.
And the hard part for me with working from home is that I don't really have to help them with their school work during their work, but they want me during their independent learning time.
Yep.
Or their breaks or their lunch break. And it's hard for me to say, I have to work, because they're going through this rough time. And It's like, if they want mom to, build this Lego set with them or to do this independent work that they've been assigned with them, like, I feel like I need to be there. And that's a good chunk of their day. I mean, they're in school from 8:50 to 3:00, but I think it's 3 hours that they're in front of the computer, and the rest is break, lunch, and independent learning. So that's getting harder for me because they seem to need me and want me around more and more.
Right.
But they want to decorate for Christmas next weekend, and I didn't
I'm all
say
for
no.
that.
Yeah, good.
My
I
stockings are
didn't say
going up this
no.
week.
Like, we need to focus on the positive. built up our backyard. We got them a trampoline. We got them a ninja line. Like, we're blessed with what we have. I work from home. Nate works, with one person, so he's not exposed, out there with the trees.
Which reminds me, I need him to hack that chestnut tree out soon.
I'll remind him.
Yeah.
He does, yeah. He's an arborist.
Yeah.
So we're lucky.
Got a giant.
I have my human moments where I just want to break down and scream and cry, but
I want to
remove
picture one of my oak trees in my backyard next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give me a call.
Oh, definitely. Those.
Yeah, the chestnut. That's been.
Yeah, the worst part too is like you have this anxiety, but you start working on it, and you get to finally get to a place. But like for me, when I'm at work, I'm absorbing everybody's frustration. So sometimes I get home and I'm just like, oh, I am exhausted mentally because my job is not physical at all. It's all mental.
Right.
But I get home and sometimes I don't even want to talk to Cheryl, and I feel bad for her because she's at home by herself all day. So when I come into the front door, she, and I'm just like, oh, whoa,
and
Right.
that's hard. So for one of the things that's hard for me is I love working from home. I do, I miss my coworkers because, I had a small office and we were very close. We still talk via Skype, but it's not the same. I love being home all day. I love being able to be home with the dogs, especially with her. But then it's like after being home all day, and then just like, okay, ending work at, say, 4:30. If I don't have stuff to get done around the house, I'm like, all right, what am I going to do with myself till I go to bed at 10, 11 o'clock? You go a little stir crazy, and then just it's occupying your time. And it's like, it's just me at the house. So it's like I'm talking to the dogs.
Yeah.
And Nate works hard at his job all day. Like, he has a labor-intensive job, but he will come home and I will just be like, I gotta check out. And he totally gets it. Like, he doesn't want to be in my position.
Right.
At all. We're lucky that we can do it, but he knows when I'm like, sorry, I can't see the kids for at least an hour.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna go for a drive or whatever it is, because it's a lot. Like, and when you're home and your family's all home all the time now, you also feel like you have to manage the home and keep it clean. And it's like, so I'm balancing like a million things at once while figuring out what Marty has in his crate that he's eating now. Because if his butt is at the front of the crate, he has something that he's not supposed to have.
Yeah, you walk right by, you just see it, you're like, oh, shit.
And it's like, It's a lot.
Sad the way COVID is affecting the rescues too, not just someone from a standpoint of, bringing the dogs in and, having to put a hold on a lot of that and, the in-person, like the home visits, the meet and greets, just because of the pandemic, but from a fundraising standpoint too. I mean, we haven't really talked about that, but I think a lot of most rescues struggle,
Mm-hmm.
This has been really hard, and I'm sure there's a lot of rescues that right now are having a hard time staying afloat because they haven't been able to do those major fundraisers that they do every year.
Right. For sure.
So one of the things I see coming down the pike, especially probably next year, as more people lose their jobs and those things, is I believe it was Cane's Crusade that helps people with their vet bills and food and those kind of things. So, I mean, anything that anybody can do, $5 a month, whatever that looks like. The average cost of a dog going in for any kind of surgery is $3,000. That's what every time we got a dog in, and Sean would call me and go, well, we got another $3,000 bill. It's like, oh, man. So we always found the money somehow, but sometimes we struggled and we had credit cards that we had to put stuff down on. And, I mean, I didn't, they did. But, that puts a very mental burden on them to know that we have to pay that off. And, I had
Dash, my dachshund had back surgery, spinal surgery back in July, $6,200.
Yeah, you hands down have taken the jackpot on vet bills.
Right. I have insurance on him. I still had to pay out of pocket. And I'm going to, I'm totally going to do a plug right now for the health insurance company that I have Dash's health insurance through, because it's called Healthy Paws. And they have been phenomenal. I don't know what I would do without this company. I would be literally in the hole. I probably would have had to have put him down. Yeah. I don't know what I would have had to have taken out a loan, or done something. I mean, I took that policy out on him in 2017. Within a month of taking the policy out, Dash was hospitalized up at Tufts in Worcester, and that was like when that was his first bout with his back, and that was like a $3,000 bill. They covered that. I'm like, all right, thank God I bought this policy. And then 3 years later, he ended up needing the surgery. And yeah, I mean, if anybody is thinking about getting health insurance for their dog, and you're not looking to cover the routine like vaccines, you're just looking for like an accident or illness policy, this company has been phenomenal, and their customer service is through the roof, and my claims have been paid in under a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Good to know. Yeah.
You know, because
I actually purchased, after I adopted Rex, I ended up purchasing insurance on him too through the same company because he's half dachshund, so we know what's coming with him. Right.
Yeah. You know, with Samson, with his autoimmune disorder, that was a scary day. We went out to breakfast, we came home, and there's blood all over the floor. Like, everywhere you looked, there was blood. I was like, okay, they got into a fight. I checked everybody from bow to stern, couldn't find anything wrong. So I called Sean. I'm like, Sean, I can't find any wounds or anything like that. He goes, well, start checking buttholes. I'm like, I didn't even think of that. Sure enough, Samson was the first one. Blood. I'm like, okay, let's get to the vet. That was a process of like 2 weeks of they couldn't figure out what was wrong. And then finally, the last time I brought him in, I'm like, we are not leaving here until you have an answer. And I don't care what it cost me. We're finding out. And sure enough, we finally got a hold of the internal medicine doctor. And she knew right what it was the minute she saw him. She goes, it's autoimmune disorder. I don't know which one yet, but we'll get to the bottom of that. And so the amount of money it costs us to keep him alive every month is insane. But it's just what we do.
We had the same problem with our pug Millie. I mean, when she was 4, we found out she had some congenital liver thing. And we found out on a whim because she had a mast cell tumor that needed to be removed from her leg. And when the vet did blood work, her liver enzyme levels were all out of whack, and we had to do all this testing. And I ended up I went into the hole paying for her, just trying to figure out what was wrong with her. And I mean, I would do it all over again. I got another 4 years with her, but I just finished paying off those bills earlier this year from 2014. It's insane.
Yeah. I always tell Cheryl, I would definitely remortgage my house for my dogs. I mean, we all would. You know what I mean? It's just, we don't even think twice about it. You know, we just do it.
Right.
So.
No, I mean, we were the same with Foster. We had, I want to say it was probably like near $4,000 for his cancer surgery when he was 6. He eventually died of cancer when he was 9. But that was not operable.
Right.
You know, that was a done deal. It was until he was ready to go, and then he was ready to go. But it was not a question like, we'll pay this. We took out a care credit, and
I think the key is finding,
really
finding a good vet too that's not going to put you through the ringer and, try to just do all this unnecessary testing. I mean, my vet is out near Cooley Dick, which is like a 25-minute drive for me. And I mean, there's a ton of vets closer, but I specifically go to them because I know what I'm getting. I had a friend, she had to put her dog Petey down. It's been about a year and a half. Petey was actually a rainbow rescue dog, we found out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she adopted him in 2010. I don't know how we put it together, but he was a rainbow dog. He was a Great Pyrenees Golden Retriever mix. He was the best dog, and he had this giant lump in his mouth, and it was obviously cancer. And I won't say what vet she used, but I mean, he was, a 11-year-old dog at the time. And they just made her go through all this unnecessary testing just to confirm that it was cancer. Honestly, on a dog at that age, in a spot where you're not going to put that dog under anesthesia, it was inoperable.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was just so sad for her because she was already so stressed about this because she loved this dog so much. And, her dog was struggling. He couldn't eat anymore. And she's got the vet putting her through the ringer, doing x-rays. And I'm like, why are you doing x-rays on a tumor in his mouth? And
yeah,
so,
I mean, you want the vet to give you your options, but without pressure.
Yeah.
It's like,
I just call him out on it. I said, listen.
she ended up spending about $2,000 just to get this tumor diagnosed. When I mean, you could look at him and clearly say what it was, and I was like, all right, you need to find a new vet. So that's kind of key with it too, is finding an honest vet that's gonna work with you and be reasonable.
Yeah, and my thing too is you have to call him on the table a little bit. Like, listen, you're the expert. What do you really think it is? Like, already in your head what you probably think it is, but let's skip some of the bullshit to get there, and let's get to where you think it really is, and then we can go from there. And with my vet, first of all, she did not like the fact that I had Samson on a raw diet. She didn't. She very much voiced her opinion at first, and I said, listen, two things are going to happen. You're going to support me in this, or I'm leaving and I'm going to go to another vet. So this isn't up for discussion. This is something I picked. And then she went to a seminar in Canada shortly thereafter and came back, and first thing she did was call me. She's like, I went to a seminar in raw feeding. She goes, I'm hooked on this, but I don't if I give someone your number, can you help? I'm like, absolutely. And no one ever ended up calling me, but I definitely like the fact that she understood it a little bit more and was more, well, the first thing I hear is, well, dog's going to get salmonella. Let me tell you something. There's more recalls on
chicken
food.
Jacoby's eaten.
Yeah, and if you do it right, and I took it seriously. I forget how many hours I spent researching. I mean, if I say it was probably 100 hours or more, that's probably not even close to what I did. I was more than that. And I met a guy on YouTube. His name was Andy O'Neill. So shout out to Andy. I was drunk one night. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was Googling raw diets. I shouldn't even have been up that time of night. And I messaged him. And he got right back to me the next day. And so that started a great friendship from there. And he taught me everything I needed to know. And I kind of branched out on my own. But he gave me definitely the basics. And he had his own YouTube channel, which he was doing comedy at the same time. So once she finally got on the same page as me, I felt more comfortable going there. But you have to really assert yourself when you go into a vet, because they're especially now that almost every vet we go to now is owned by a parent company. And so you kind of really have to say, listen, this is my budget. What can we do within this budget? And then we'll go, obviously the budget can be worked with, but I don't have $5,000 to get to nowhere.
My vet built a whole new facility a couple years ago when they moved out to Florence, and I joked that I probably paid for an entire wing of it. So
you can give a shout out to your vet if you want.
My vet is amazing. I go to Northampton Veterinary Clinic, and all the doctors there are absolutely phenomenal. But I particularly see Dr. Lori Pepperella or Dr. Kate Delisle. Those, I don't know what I would do without them. I would be completely lost. And I mean, we wait weeks for appointments just to get in with the two of them. But the facility in general, everyone there is fantastic. I cannot highly recommend. I mean, if you're in the Northampton area and you need a vet, I would absolutely recommend them.
Yeah. Where do you go?
We go to Belchertown Veterinary Hospital.
Yeah.
Dr. Greenberger, and I love the staff there, and I just kind of fell in love with them when, especially when we had to put Foster down. It was like a really peaceful, loving experience there.
Yeah.
And they've been really great. But I will also plug the cat hospital in Northampton.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we haven't had our two cats they passed away 2017 and 2018. But Dr. Rickskers at the cat hospital
I've worked with her.
Is like by far the best cat vet you will find in the valley. She's so sweet and so smart. And we actually used to live above there, which is how we became connected with her when we got our kittens.
Oh, wow. Yep.
But we moved all the way to Belchertown and continued taking them to her for the rest of their lives because, like, when you find somebody you trust, you stick with it. Just like Jenn did. Like, she still goes to Florence. It's just worth sticking with it for that relationship.
Right.
When I had to put Jazzy's sister down, Coco, back in July, she was doing great, and it was very, I mean, again, she was blind and deaf and didn't have any teeth, but she was a hoot. Like, I mean, she was just the most, her personality.
Living her best life.
Oh yeah, she could be dead asleep, and if you opened like a bag of cheese or something, right up.
I love that analogy, like the thief comes walking in the house.
Though.
Yeah.
Like, I could be dead asleep and hear cheese and be like,
she was Yeah, her onset was really, really fast, and I think it was like a Saturday, and I took her up to the emergency vet, and they wanted to euthanize her right away. And I said, I'm leaving here with my dog. I'm not making this decision right now. And so I took her home, and I called my vet first thing the next morning, and they said, it was a Sunday that I brought her into emergency, because I called my boss, and I said, I'm going to be out today. I have to, bring Coco to the vet. And they're like, get her in right away. Bring her here. They had her in right away. Mind you, this is during COVID too. And so she saw one of the newer vets there, but they were phenomenal. They were like, she's definitely on borrowed time, but let's see if we can make her comfortable to get her home. And I think they were in the process of trying to cath her, because what ended up happening is she lost all use of her back legs, and it happened really fast. And she was out in the yard, and what would happen is she couldn't walk, but she didn't know why. And then it got to the point where she couldn't go to the bathroom anymore. And so they were trying to get her comfortable so I could bring her home for at least a few more days. And then they were trying to cath her, and she just, it was like a turn for the worse. And I ended up I think I was sitting in my car for almost 4 hours.
Oh.
And they were calling me every 15 minutes, giving me updates, letting me know what they were doing. And ultimately I ended up having to ultimately put her down that day. But I mean, I wouldn't have changed the way that it happened, because she went on her terms. But I mean, my vet, they did everything they could to try to at least get her home to me for a few more days. It just unfortunately didn't work out that way. But so
yeah, it's a tough call, when you have to put one down. I mean, we all know it's the best gift we can give them, but boy, I'll tell you, I'll never forget when we lost Cheyenne, my shepherd. I had this anger that was like building, because I wasn't always good about letting that anger out, being that, the typical, you're supposed to be some kind of tough guy, and I remember I was in the parking lot and I was crying by myself, just bawling. And this guy pulls up next to me, he's eating his lunch, and I don't know what he ended up saying to me, but he was making fun of me that I was crying. So next thing you know, I ripped the car door open, I'm out, me and him are going at it in the middle of the parking lot, not fighting, but verbally going at each other. And I finally just said to myself, oh my God, what am I doing? I can't be doing this. So I got back in my car and I called Cheryl, and I'm like, well, I pretty much almost just killed somebody. And thank God I had the wherewithal to get back in my car. But yeah, it affects, I've been to so many funerals where I've barely cried.
Right.
And because I'm a firm believer that this life is just one plane, but we go to another plane, we get to see these people again. And I'm not really big into the God hell thing. I just think of, energy and I was a mess for months and months and months. Even after we got Samson afterwards, I swore off dogs after that. I'm like, I'm not getting any dogs. And Cheryl would send me a picture here and there, and I knew what she was doing. She was kind of feeling me out. But, once I finally got over that a little bit, it was tough. Though. I still, to this day, I think of her, and I'm like, oh,
because it's on you. The decision is on you.
It's on you. I think to some extent you do know when they're ready. I definitely knew Coco was ready. I can't tell you how many people question me on almost a daily basis. Why is Jazzy still alive? Why are you keeping her alive? Well, because she's not ready. I mean, She's got her issues, but trust me, this dog is got a lot of fight left in her.
Yeah, she has a little sleep apnea, but she's doing really well.
Right. She's a pug.
She's got that mushy nose.
She's got the mush face. She's got...
Every time I see a pug, I think of you automatically. I'm like, God, if Jenn was here right now, this dog would be going home with her in her pocketbook somewhere.
I actually have good friends that they just got engaged. Congratulations, Tommy and Grace. But they were always lab people. They had labs, and they met my pug Millie, and Grace fell in love with pugs, and she said to her boyfriend, we have to get a pug. He's like, I don't want a pug. So they compromised and they got a pug. And their first pug, Daphne, is now Tommy's baby.
Aww.
That is his baby. And guess what? Then they compromised and they got another pug.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they now have these two pugs, Daphne and Donut. Donut is the most annoying dog you'll ever meet. And guess who gets the pleasure of dog sitting when they go?
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're great dogs. I don't know.
Yeah, we're definitely the people that take everybody's dog when they go on vacation.
Oh, absolutely.
We've had 10 dogs that we've had to take care of between here and 2 other houses. And so you're making trips, you know what I mean? And
thanks for taking Marty.
yeah,
for
that's okay.
us.
But we love that. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you know, we talked about not being able to take a vacation. The last time we took a vacation was when one of my best buds got married in Miami. I don't know, it was like 7 years ago, something like that. And we've yet to take another vacation since, you know. So it's tough, but, you know, with Cheryl too, half it's her brain injury. We can't really travel to anywhere, but that plane ride was terrible. You know, I felt we got to that airport and she just kind of shut down, you know. So now with COVID, you know, we were just saying that we had our 20th wedding anniversary and we couldn't go anywhere, you know.
Happy anniversary, Tyler.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get rid of her for years, but she just won't leave. She treats me well. I'm not easy to live with.
Yes,
and
she does.
yeah, she does. She especially with her injury, she goes above and beyond.
She's a rock star.
Yeah. And anybody who can put up with me for any length of time is a saint.
I mean, we've been putting up with you
I was
for
going to say,
Right.
an
does
hour
that
and a half.
include
And it's not like I don't know how I am. You know what I mean? I'm very aware of how I am, but
You're great to be around, Jeff.
am I really?
You are.
I'll pay you $20
It's always a
later.
Always.
I mean, you know that if anything happens to me, you're getting Dash and Rex.
I know we
right?
talked about that all the
Like,
time.
it's-
Like, yeah.
I mean, I have actually thought about that too, which is weird because we just redid our will to include our second born in it because poor guy was a part of it. And I was like, I kind of want to put something in here about Jeff and Cheryl. Not that I would expect you to take all of them, but
Oh no, they're taking Dash and Rex.
But you
Well,
know,
they
we would though.
but you couldn't. Like, it
Oh,
just,
we
it would
would.
just
We
be
would.
a
We just
shit show.
we
if
would
you-
just sell the house
right,
and we would move some.
Right.
We would definitely do that. Like
but
that would
just
be
to
our
put
thing.
you in charge of their well-being, you would know who to get them to. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like, you're
That-
such good, trustworthy
that-
dog people.
That does scare me too, especially like, you know, like especially with like Dash and Rex, like they're dachshunds. Like they're not for everybody. Those dogs are they're stubborn, they're hard to deal with. So it's like, you know, like Jacoby goes to my dad if something happens to me. If something were to happen to me, Jazzy, she would go back to the pug rescue because pug people are pug people. But I'm like, what am I going to do with Dash and Rex if anything happens to me? I'm like, I get a dachshund that, you know, pees in the house sometimes. I got Rex who doesn't shut up and he's on Prozac and CBD oil. And I'm like, what am I going to do with these guys? Well, they're going to Jeff and Cheryl.
Yep.
Maybe that's what we should let Luna do. Smoke a little weed.
You
Like
should
give her.
the CBD oil
I thought
is
you
actually
tried CBD with her, didn't you?
So we did non-THC, just so everybody knows I'm
Yeah.
not getting my dog high. She responded well in the first couple days, and then it went away because it's more of a, for her it was more probably anti-inflammatory than it ended up being antipsychotic. But
for Rex. It's
we did have her on Prozac when we first got her, and she just didn't do well with that at all. And I didn't want to see her vegging out. You know, I want her to
Right.
enjoy life. So,
love it if Rex would veg out.
you know, I bought a citronella collar for her just back in the summertime.
Did it work?
It did, yeah. And I don't, with her, I didn't want to get the shock collar, but I think she would respond well to a shock collar because she's very quick mentally. You know what I mean? She didn't like it was like one afternoon of having the citronella collar on, and then she stopped barking. But I'm afraid with her because of her fear issues. It's the only thing that stops me from going all the way with it. You know?
We've done a vibration collar with Callie.
Yeah.
I could have done it better, I think, but they do pick up on it really quick. And it's like there's 3 solid beeps before a vibration.
Yeah.
And they pick that up real quick. So it's like it doesn't get past the first beep or 2 after a couple of times.
Yeah.
See, with Rex, the barking isn't so much like he is definitely like a fearful dog, and like he'll just be sitting there. I'll be working, and he'll just be. I'm like, why are you shaking? Like looking at him, I'm just like his barking, his incessant barking is when he's not like he can't be around me. So I mean, if I just want to like put him in the kitchen, or if I just want to go take like a bubble bath or something, like, and I shut the bathroom door, he will sit outside the door and scratch and bark at it. Or if you lock him in the kitchen and he just loses it. But it's weird because he's fine when I'm not home. If I leave the house, he's fine. If I'm in the house and he can't see me, he loses it. And so I'm trying to navigate that right now, like with the barking, because it's just,
Well, we're really selling dogs here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna be watching us. Like, go out and adopt a dog. They're great.
Most of them are.
Get a dog and some earmuffs.
Yeah,
You're good.
most of them are.
Some drugs.
That's part
money,
of the reason.
More money.
That's part of the reason I kept Rex too, because I think I was his fourth home, and I remember when the couple dropped him off, they were just like, "Okay, see ya." Didn't have a collar on, nothing. It was a retractable leash wrapped around his neck, and I was just like, he's so anxious. I'm like, I just can't see like moving him again. And honestly, he's such a small dog. I'm like, I guarantee you somebody in an apartment is going to try to adopt him. And then they're going to return him because they're like, you're going to get me kicked out of my apartment. Right.
Yeah. So certain things work for certain dogs. And I'm not against, like, I'm against going right to, like, shock collars and stuff. Like, there's a progression. Like, we've had Luna for, like, 4 years now. And we've tried a whole bunch of things since then, And one of those things is just getting to know her,
right.
What's going to set her off, and not just doing that, But I think like the problem with the collar was you have to constantly fill it every day. You know what I mean? And that just becomes monotonous. You don't want to do it. But I think a vibration collar would be.
Yeah, and I think for me it was like I don't want to take away something that's natural to dogs.
Yeah.
I don't want to silence her.
Right.
But I want to silence her in
a good way.
In a good way, but right, like you don't have to stand like our neighbors. We've lived here since you've lived here. They have 2 kids who run around the yard, like just so those moments are the ones I really want to capture.
Yeah.
And so when she comes inside the house, I take it off.
Right.
Which would be different, with Luna because every dog has their different areas that they bark. For Callie, it's like when she goes out, she barks at the neighbors on both sides.
Yeah.
And that's it. When she's in the house,
she's fine.
She's fine. So it's hard because you have to be on top of it.
Right. Yeah. Like the other day when I put that picture on Facebook where Luna had her head on the couch, and I said something like waiting patiently to freak out on somebody as they walk by. That's what she does. Like she knows I don't like her sitting on top of the couch. Because she postures up and she just waits. But now she'll sit next to me and put her head over like that. I'm really not looking.
Right.
And then the mailman comes and, next thing you know.
Yeah.
And, of course, we have to dog-proof the yard and stuff like that. And she's really good about not trying to find her way out. But she definitely, and I love the hopping when she gets outside. She does this bunny hop. And, her colors. She's just a sweet, like we love her unconditionally. You know what I mean? And I'm glad she came into our life, But we can, like the fire alarms go off. That's one of her things. Like any kind of chirping, any kind of loud noise. And now that we have the fire alarms now where they're all connected, so one goes off, they all go off.
I hate that.
And then they talk on top of it. Yeah.
I don't have that problem.
So
they're hardwired.
Yeah. So now you only have to have one that's hardwired now, and the rest have to be at least Wi-Fi or connected. So they've gone out a couple times because of the shower. You leave the shower door open or the bathroom door and the steam sets them off. So she'll run upstairs into our room because that's her safe place, and she'll hunker down in there. And then so when I come back in, I'll be like, okay, let's go. And then she's like, okay, we're good. But you can definitely see when I first go in there, that fear of just like, and I hate when like, you want to take that fear away from them all the time, but you can't. So you just try to work and do the best you can with her. But if people ever saw what she was like when she's here with us, when no one's around, you would never
wildly improved.
Yeah. So it's going to take some more time. It might take another 5 years, but we're in it for the long haul. Right. So it's one of those things. So we're at a hour and a half right now. So it went by pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to go over?
No.
Want to plug anything?
No, I feel like I've plugged away.
Yeah, I plugged my vet, my dog's health insurance company.
So thank you guys very much for coming on. This was awesome. I'm very, very humbled that you guys would come on here with me. So this is nice.
Thanks for having us. Jazzy got a good nap in.
She did. Yeah. The snoring. I can't wait to hear what that's going to sound like on the mic coming back.
I kept thinking it was my stomach. Like I was like, what's happening? And I'm like, oh, the dog's snoring.
She was so good.
Yeah, she was.
Right, Jazzy? Look at her. She's like, I'm ready for
bed.
Best.
Yeah. She's going to go home and have her
we
second
all
dinner.
Are, Jazzy.
All right, guys. So thanks again for joining us. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you on episode number 9. Thank you very much, and have a good night.